join us too, that'd be great. Look at you in the sunshine.
Hey man, I get it when I can, though it just suddenly got really bright. So I'm gonna slide over. It's like, wow, it's nice and not too bright. And all of a sudden it's inferno.
I could have gone home and done the same thing on my new deck in the backyard because my 11 and 12 o'clock canceled. So we could have done like an outdoor core conversations.
Nice.
Would have been splendid.
It's been pretty gray. So with everything going on, I feel like as much sunshine and light as I can get,
yeah,
it is a good thing. No, that's still really freaking bright. Let's take a little walk, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. I use that quote already. I don't usually recycle things within the same week, but I used that quote like maybe a couple days ago, and it hit me again. Like I just like that quote.
I think it's so very appropriate, and honestly, it's spot on. Like, why would we spend our time, which I don't know about you, I do actually. Your time is limited, my time is limited, everybody's time is limited. Why would we spend our time with people that don't make us better in some way?
Yep.
People that encourage us to act or think or do, stand out of our boxes, elevate. I don't want to be with lima beans. I don't want to, cavort with the squirrels in my backyard. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is have interactions it's still fresh, man. Interactions that are positive and meaningful. And if it's not that, I don't want it, especially right now.
Yes. Otherwise, the group becomes crabs in a barrel by pulling us down. Yeah, that's Carrie's comment there.
And yeah, 100% Carrie, as always.
Yeah. I used to I guess I still do it. Like on New Year's Eve, around that time, I start to kind of assess who's in my circle, and almost like pruning the friend tree to some degree. Like I think, who am I going to put my emphasis on? Friends, other couples, families, that sort of thing. So it's not like I'm gonna cut people out, but I take that circle around my friend group and I get a Sharpie out and I make that circle darker. You're in or you're out. I'm going to pour into you, you're going to pour into me, or I'm just not going to put emphasis on making this happen, sort of thing.
I have a name for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's called the Friends Consolidation Program.
Oh, okay. Do you run a course on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be in my next workshop series.
Okay.
But, I do the same thing. It's like, where are we?
Mm-hmm.
Are we just... super cash, blowing in and out of each other's orbits, whatever, which is totally fine. But, where am I going to put my investment? Mm-hmm. That's going to be to the people that light me up and hopefully the people that I do the same for. I don't want to be anyone else's lima bean. I don't even think lima beans are a responsible or respectable food. So I certainly don't want to hang around with people that remind me of lima beans.
Right.
You tried to stay so serious with that, and you failed.
Yes, okay. It's all good. This is it. We I think that's why I just have people like you in my world, like Stefan, right? My guy, in the same way, I posted my conversation with him. And reposted the part where he was complimenting me because of I think it was last week, I gave you your roses, or the week before, and just talked about how the impact you've had in my life, right? And it's one thing, it's easier to give than to receive in that way, right? Like I can do this all day to people. And so I had to kind of lean into that and just receive that from him, whom I don't know well, but I feel like I know really well based on the conversations we've had because we think the same, and we shared, our reflections on divorce and separation and family and work and life and balance and these things, right? So yeah, it's interesting how that circle gets filled with people who may not be, people who you have a strong history with, but like it's more people that are aligned in vision with you.
Yes, yes. Even, these conversations that we have here and with Thought Flow, I'll be doing something in my day and I'll think of something that, for example, something that Carrie said. And, it's not like, I don't feel like the degrees of separation are so great that, that it's just esoteric in and out of my mind.
Right.
Sorry, geese.
Canadian geese, for the record.
Yes. Those nasty bastards. Anyway,
Yes.
It's really a neat thing to be able to say that your circle has expanded beyond the people that you can actually, get close to.
Yeah.
Geographically or whatever it is. And sure, we've been global for how long now, but we're even more global now in the world of Zooming and chatting about important things. It's not just work. It's not just superficial business.
Right. It's intimately global, right? Like to some degree.
Yes.
Right.
Reach out and touch.
Yeah. Jamie, the guy, Isaac, sorry, that's it. Reposted one of my workouts the other day, and I forgot that he's in Azul's doing his retreats. He has a retreat center.
Where?
Is it Azul's? Is that a place?
Azul?
Azul?
A-Z-U-L? Or
Yes.
is he in the Azores? A-Z-O-R-E-S?
Azul. It's A-Z-U-L. A-Z-U-L.
Okay.
Yeah, he's there. So another place for us
Spain?
in Spain. Yep. Yes.
It's still my favorite.
Yes.
If you need a teacher for you forever, I would gladly pack a bag and move to Spain forever.
I think you wouldn't even wait to pack a bag. I think you just go.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I would just buy there.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, another reason to shop. Yippee!
Right. Exactly. Just vanish. I had this conversation with my client this morning. So this is a freestyle. We're just kind of making this up on the go because our guest wasn't able to make it today. So if you want to join us in the chat, just give a thumbs up and we'll bring you on. One of my clients that I had this morning was at a meditation retreat, and so he came back with his head just full. So like 3/4 of our session was just thinking about like the title. Where did you pick that up from? Like, what are those thoughts? What are those ideals? What are those things that we've just adopted that impact the way that we move, the way we train, the way that we think, the way that we parent, the way that we husband, the way that we wife, right? Sort of thing. So it's an interesting conversation. And I tied it into the Will Smith conversation that he had on David Letterman, like my next guest. So it's up on Netflix right now. I'm tying all these concepts together here. Mm-hmm. So he was, first of all, Will Smith on David Letterman was talking about an excerpt from his book. I found out later it was in his book, where he's using that line that 99% is still zero. And his dad used to say that to him all the time. You got to push, you got to go, like you got to push yourself, make sure it's 100%, 110%. So that sense of work. If it's not 100%, it's zero. 99% is still zero, sort of thing, right? So he used that line all the time, and that's what kind of drove him in his career and tried to excel and be larger than life everywhere he goes. And everything is so theatrical and just the way that he does things. And then he gets to this point where he's talking to his therapist, he says in the story, where he's saying, like, I got to push myself and have this anxiety and all this stress and stuff because 99% is still zero, so I got to go. And his therapist pauses and just says, 99% is as far from zero as is possible. And it gives him pause because it's like, that's mathematically true, but that's not what he received from his dad. He just heard and absorbed that message and just ran with it. And for me, I thought that was funny because we all know mathematically that's true, but when you hear something from a young age, you absorb it and you believe it, you run with it, you never think to stop and assess its validity.
Right. Well, especially when you're young, you don't have a frame of reference. The biggest, most important people in your life, your parents or, caretakers, whatever, are telling you that this is what it is. Well, so damn it, then that's what it is.
Mhm.
So you're not going to challenge it. You're just going to eat it up. And unfortunately, we know a lot of people that are like that have been driven to empty or worse because they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered to teach them about what it takes to be that 99% or 110% or whatever it is. They only talked about the work part about it, but they never talked about the work part about it.
Yes.
The part that you need to be able to survive working at that pace forever, because it's unsustainable.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like, those are all the things that, like, I find when we get to this place where, like, this week you, Misty, and I are having a conversation on the tail of yet another massacre, yet another shooting, yet another tragedy happening. I mean, like, we had this same conversation last week around Buffalo. This, now we're coming into what happened in Texas, and it's like we can hear you wax philosophical about what needs to be done, but then at the same time, we have to still kind of go to work the next day, talk to people in our circle, interrupt, negative thoughts, and do our things on a micro scale while these things are happening on a macro level.
Yeah.
You know?
But here's the thing. Sorry, I'm under attack. Here's the thing. You cannot, not you personally, you figuratively, you cannot expect a person, a people, a collective, a group, a community to continue to endure what we are seeing over and over and over again and expect anywhere near 99. I don't care how great you are at compartmentalizing. This back-to-back business, coupled with all of the press about the Supreme Court, we've got, things happening left and right. Martinez Ramirez was just ruled on, terrible ruling, in my opinion, disgusting. We are in this place where we're just enduring. People talk about resilience, but if you are running on resilience, you never get to a place where you thrive. Resiliency is supposed to be a temporary place where you climb out of your hole and you manage to find stasis to then be able to rebuild farther.
That's where you get your footing from. Yeah.
Yes, there's no footing. We have no mooring because we are constantly being pummeled. And, I've been in zombie mode for the past couple of weeks anyway, but I've actually been up all night. I couldn't sleep because, all of this stuff keeps happening. And I have tried, and this is hard, I've really tried to be positive and find a way to frame it so that even I could just deal with it myself and show up. But, to be personal about it, it's harder than ever before to just show up when it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. Next week, we're going to be in the same place.
Yep.
And there's no indication that it can be any different.
Not only is there no indication it'll be any different. Thanks, Shanti. Watch the replay.
Shanti.
Thanks for coming in. But like, you look at, like, you referenced Sandy Hook last week, right? And now it's like 2.0 happened this week, right? And yesterday, and you feel like
3.0, because Parkland happened in between.
That's right. So now, like, there's some post said it this morning, like, when nothing happens from that last tragedy, that gives permission for the next tragedy to be even worse.
Right. 100%. it's normalized it to the point where people say things like, oh, there's another one. I feel so bad. And then they just keep going.
Yep.
There was a day, do you remember when Columbine happened?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you where I was.
Yeah.
I tried to work. I mean, I remember every single bit of it.
Yep.
It disgusts me that this is so normal now that we don't even have a frame of reference other than, oh yeah, that thing happened. I don't remember. It was at a school someplace. People don't even know where this happened.
Yes.
It's gross. It's really gross. I'm sorry, but there's a part of me that blames us for allowing ourselves to become complacent and therefore accomplices. How much of the electorate doesn't vote? How much of the electorate only pays attention when it's an issue that affects them personally?
Yep.
It's a problem.
Right. That part about the electorate, the part about those who have a voice, I keep in my head, the way I deal with it is just saying I dismiss it as greed. And what I mean by that is you see the greed of those in power making decisions based on keeping their power. Those, you know what I mean? Like those who are funding their campaigns, so you're not actually representing the people, you're not actually hearing the people, you're just trying to keep your full-time gig, trying to keep your status, trying to keep your influence, trying to keep these people in your pocket. So those the ripple effects of that greed are casualties like what we're seeing here when it comes to gun laws, when it comes to certain things that are being bills and laws that are being set in place, because the people who have the money are the ones who are making the decisions, not the people who are actually impacted by the decisions.
The casualty is democracy, because what's happened is we are under minority rule.
Yeah.
The minority is making the decisions. The minority is forcing them. 82% of the country wants reasonable gun legislation. 82%. 68%, depending upon the poll you're looking at, is in favor of keeping Roe. I mean, there are so many places where, if you just take a look at it, you see we are under minority rule. And what we're seeing now, the minority has gotten so emboldened and so loud and so powerful. And the other party is playing tiddlywinks and maybe drinking some Courvoisier. I don't know what they're doing, but they are certainly not showing up. You know, was it Snidely Whiplash who said cheat to win? I feel like we've played this morality game as people that are anywhere left of center for how long? Follow the rules, do it right, all of this. But we've been following rules that we never bothered to codify. We've been following a constitution that we never bothered to protect. And we are seeing now the breakdowns in ruling that way. It's not a handshake. These are people's lives.
Right.
And yet the NRA has more power than the ACLU. Maybe. I'm going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? What do you do about it? And this is where I get really lost, is because I don't see an end. And I don't like not having answers to problems. And I feel like all of the good people in the world can run for office, but you know what? They can't afford it. You can't afford to run for office in this country, even a small office. I mean, you might be able to be like lead comptroller's pencil pusher. You might be able to afford to run for that office. But to really make the substantive change that we need to see, we're not going to see it in our generation. Jamrock 75.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you. Let me just jump. I'm going to read some of his comments as we before he jumps off. So back up, he says, correct. They represent the strongest lobbyists and party line. Roe is in jeopardy because of the conservative Supreme Court appointments, which are aligned with party priorities.
Yes, but Roe is also in trouble because we, the people who support Roe, didn't do enough to support Roe. That should have been codified 100 years ago. Okay, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Back at the beginning, it wasn't. That should be, if you're going to say something is a right, then make it a right. We didn't do that. And now here we are. So many things. You know, I don't know if you heard this. Maybe we talked about it last week or not. I can't remember last week. Well, I can, but I can't. Point of that story is a Louisiana lawmaker said the other day, if you look at our poor maternal fetal statistics in our state and you just remove Black people from the statistics, you'll see that our numbers really aren't that bad. You'll see that the numbers aren't that bad if you remove an entire people group. And said it out loud. This is what we're dealing with right now.
Right.
And this is why we're in the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any easier, people. Like tomorrow, it's not going to be like, strawberries and gumdrops.
Yep.
No, the strawberries are gone. They've rotten on the vine. Now we've got to figure it out. Boy, am I surly today. I'm sitting out here with my plants. I'm trying to be positive. The birds.
Can you imagine if you didn't have your plants and your birds right now? Like,
I would just be sitting there like a rock.
So, Misty, when do you run for office?
I can't afford to run for office. Are you kidding me? You know, there's a lot that my partner and I have decided that we're going to get involved with the local elections coming up in the fall. And we'll help others campaign. People ask me if I would be interested in going into politics all the time. And I don't think I have the temperament for it.
What temperament is that? Because I hear that all the time.
It's the patience for bullshit. So I worked in public relations for a while. And it was the worst job of my entire career. Not because I didn't like the work that I did. I did great work. I worked at a great little boutique firm. But all of the ass kissing and the knob rubbing and it's gross to me. We're dealing with grown adults who should be able to handle their life without a fluffer. And we are in public relations, essentially glorified fluffers. If you don't know what a fluffer is, you don't watch Thought Flow, apparently, but look it up. Probably the Urban Dictionary is the way to look.
Yes.
But I feel like that's a lot of what politics is. And while I do think good work happens, I feel like there's so much more work spent on campaigning and not enough work down in the dirt with the community making shit happen. I can't do that.
Yes.
Can you read that? Because I can't. I'm only seeing half of the scrolls.
And Brennan is a guy who just came in here. Brennan B is a gentleman who's running for Ward 10, the ward right next to me. So a colleague who I'm excited to see what the work he's doing. And so Andrew's saying, yes, we have a unique view into U.S. politics because my wife ran for New Jersey State Senate for LD25. So I'd like to share, but at another time. Yeah, he's supposed to jump off into a meeting. But yeah, I'd love to have you on, Andrew. We need to get you on.
Yeah, awesome.
But that rhetoric of it's almost like you're saying I'm not wired for that politics. Like you could wax philosophical from a distance, but to actually put your hat in the ring is a whole different story. The finances, the not wanting to do it. Like I'm sure Brendan could probably speak to this too. The thing that least excites me about me running for city council is playing the popularity contest.
Yeah. And you know what? I've always prided myself on not being popular. Like, I've never been the popular girl in school, and I am totally cool with that.
Right.
I don't want to have to fake it to be popular. I want to be allowed to do good work.
Right. You just so happen to be popular at the same time because you're being authentically yourself.
I mean, if I'm seen as popular, then that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not because I'm out here hooking for it. It's because I'm being me. Exactly.
Exactly. So if being me is not enough, and someone else is going to win this campaign because they have technically a better campaign, or because they're better at making, winning the popularity contest, there's a part of us that is disenchanted by that process when it comes to campaigning, because your thoughts and your ideas and everything you just said needs to be heard in a different room where you have a seat at the table, but the chasm to get to the floor where that seat is so big that no one wants to try and get over there.
Well, and the thing about it is that you can do all of the right things to get that seat, and you still have to deal with jackasses trying to tear you down. Look
Yes.
at Katana Brown Jackson. I mean, what she endured was crappity crap,
Yep.
technical term. And the fact that that was allowed to happen in our greatest halls of politics
Yes.
speaks volumes to the priorities of the greatest halls of politics. It's grandstanding. It's no good work happens when we're busy doing all of that nonsense.
Yes.
And I feel like so much needs to be done that when you are holding a public office, you have to be so wrapped up in that holding the office bit, just keeping your job, which is the problem that we have right now. Not only do you keep your job in the United States, you keep it for the rest of your life, which should not ever be.
Right.
But, that is the biggest inhibitor to growth that I can think of.
Yes.
Because you can't be grassroots. Now, that said, I'm in the state of Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, if you don't know who he is, and people have tried to smear the man, forget those people. John Fetterman is the bomb diggity shizzle, and here's why. John Fetterman is real people. He is what the President 45 claimed to be, but was not, could never manage. I mean, the man is Harvard educated. He has a big ass degree, moves to Pittsburgh. He moves to a town that was a former steel town, blighted, disastrous. And he did not move and live high on the hill. He bought a container and had it put on a building that he bought that was basically run down to the ground.
Okay.
And that's where he lived.
Wow.
And then he got married, his family, whatever, they built up this town in a way that people said wasn't possible. And there's still work to be done. But what he has done there, just by getting in and getting dirty and having conversations with people, rubbing elbows, shaking hands, and then actually picking up the shovel.
Right.
And then, he's running for state senator. What he's done is he's actually, when everyone else is having these big campaign appearances, he's going to just local towns and hanging out in coffee shops, talking to people. He wears track shorts and hoodies everywhere. Occasionally, he'll wear a suit, shirt, and a jacket and track shorts.
Yeah.
He is truly of the people.
Yes.
That's getting work done.
Yep. That's exactly. So Brendan and I are both up to you, right? Like, you see that. There's a both and conversation that has to happen, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm recognizing for this season of my life. So I can do the grassroots thing. I can hang out in a coffee shop. I can ride my bike to work, stop and hand out cards on the way home, and just be amongst the people instead of spending a bag of money on a campaign platform. But you're going to have to do that part too. I think we need to be
Right.
proficient in that part as well. Surround yourself, full circle to our conversation at the beginning, surround yourself with people in that circle that can be proficient at those parts that you're not as proficient with. I know that I'm not the best person administratively, and I'll leave money on the table if I don't have someone reminding me to bill them.
Right.
But at the same time, I could be a great, Pilates instructor, right? So you need to get that administrative side in the same way in this world. Yes, be grassroots, always touch, connect, whatever. And then how do you also put on just a sparkling campaign and find that money and do those things so you can get to that place? If I can just read Brendan's comment here. The reason I'm running is because I'm tired of having to quote unquote ask someone to do things. Quote unquote playing the game is fraudulent. When we accept the system as is, then we have the issues you are both discussing. We need to rise above that madness, right? So that's the both end conversation for me, right? Because I mean, like, I'm the same person. You've heard, if you're watching these shows, I'll preach about leading from the set, leading from the middle, and a leader without a title, and all these things. I mean, because impact is paramount to me. But then to get to the next level, to be able to have a greater scope of influence, or to widen your scope of influence, you not play the game, but you're going to have to get proficient at some other parts of this mechanism besides that grassroots piece that comes easy to us. So,
well, at the end of the day, it is politics, just like
yeah,
running a business. At the end of the day, you might be the
it's sales.
best Pilates in the world,
Yeah.
but you can't run a Pilates business if you don't at least know something about business. And maybe that's something that is that you have to hire somebody to help you run your business.
Yes.
I mean, because that's just as valuable.
Yeah.
You might be the only person in your area that does what you do. And so you've got something important to show. But if you're toiling in the running of the business aspect of it, nobody gets that because you want to set yourself on fire. It's just too much.
Right.
So that's why it's important to recognize that. And I think your point is solid, Martin. You have to be able to do all of the things, at least marginally proficiently,
Yep.
to be able to make it happen. And I think what's lost is that will, or that vim and vigor to keep looking in and tapping back with the constituencies that have put people into office.
Yes.
And seeing what their needs are. What do they want?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That, and it's simple as it sounds, everybody, encouragement.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I have to say this, that I'm being mindful of, I've always been mindful of, but even more so to encourage people when I have an opportunity to encourage them, to give them the flowers when it's an opportunity to give them their flowers. Because even as I'm going into the season of life, I recognize that it's valuable to me. It's more valuable to me right now. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, there's an app called the Nextdoor app, right? So, and it's like a hyper local Facebook. And so it's just Meadowvale people, Central Air Mills people. And I was talking about some topic, and some guy was arguing with me on it in a healthy way. It wasn't like threatening, it wasn't attacking my character, but like just challenged me on some things, and went back and forth. And that was the end of that. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, I was just going, I don't like looking at my phone just before going to bed. Just set an alarm, that's it. But for some reason, I went on this Nextdoor app, and I maybe had a rough day, or maybe one of those days where I feel like overwhelmed with everything I'm trying to achieve. And it wasn't like I'm going to give up, but it was still heavy, right? And you're thinking, I could be doing more. You end your day and you realize that there's 10 things you didn't tick off your to-do list or whatever it is. And there was a message from this gentleman that said, hey, Martin, just send you a note to say, keep doing what you're doing. Something along those lines, like, all best of luck. And it was powerful because it was someone that I just finished having a conflict with, which I knew it wasn't like a bad conflict, but when you butt heads with someone, you really don't know where you stand. And it's not like we're friends and say like, we're good. So to get this encouragement from a perfect stranger who felt safe enough to challenge me was enough to keep me going.
Yeah.
It was enough of a push for me that as much as I get that cheering on from my wife, from people like you or people that know me, those are powerful affirmations. But getting affirmation from a stranger is powerful in a different way. So I want to keep gifting that out to people because it
This
keeps
is
us all
why
going.
this is why you're going to be such a great politician. And this is why, Mississauga is so lucky to have you, and everybody knows, like, I'm a big fan of Martin Reed and all, but, the fact that, you do all of the things that you do, and you do a lot of things.
Mhm.
You do all of the things that you do, and you still maintain that level of humility where you do open yourself up to discussions that are sometimes very complex. You never lose your cool because you're always open to hearing the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody makes you think, you do this. Okay. And you process it and you give it the value
Yes.
that it has in coming from somebody else. That is what I think is so lost in so much discourse today. We don't take the time. I mean, you're talking about giving flowers. I'm talking about a nod.
Yes.
Make it smaller. We have to recognize that everybody is living this collective journey that right now is fairly fraught with trauma.
Yes.
And I think giving a nod or flowers or whatever it is to people who are doing good things is really, really important.
Yes.
I helped this lady at the, damn chipmunk. I helped this lady at the Lowe's.
Do you need a minute?
I have scissors.
I'll cut you. I'll cut you.
I will cut you. Get away from my plants.
Sorry, back to your humanitarian story.
Yeah, no, I was helping this woman at Lowe's the other day. She was really struggling getting her plants and her stuff into the car. She had a buggy and she had a cane, and she's trying to keep the buggy from rolling. And I just helped her and put the stuff in the car, and I said, thank you very much. And as I was walking away, she started yelling, come back. And I came back, and she shook my hand and she took her sunglasses down and she said, I just want to thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was almost moved to tears.
Yes.
Because, to me, it's nothing to help somebody out. And people have gotten so used to not being acknowledged for the good things that they do.
Right.
So, somebody opens the door for you, say thanks. Like, it's the little things that you just don't know how it's going to change somebody's day.
Absolutely.
And I think the more we do that, the more positive discourse we can have, because we're not expecting a bomb to come at us. There's not going to be any lobs or side eyes. It's just positive. This much.
Yeah. A nod.
Nod.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex is funny. So yeah, if you feed them Costco cashews, the chipmunks and the squirrels will love you.
Oh no. We're not having any bougie chipmunks in my neighborhood. No.
All right. Well, if you want some bougie chipmunks, I can send them some down to you from Mississauga, because
you know what?
Alex.
I haven't.
Okay.
You know what these are? These are replacement plants for the ones that have been demolished by those little furry woodland bastards. Just saying. The battle's still happening.
So funny.
I'm gonna win.
Yes, you will. You will. Noam is the podcast. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes. And that was so fun last week with him. We were talking like.
Can we just talk about Noam for a minute?
I'd love to finish talking about Noam, because
Noam is. I mean, and I was surly I was even surlier last week than I was today getting on the call. And I've got to tell you, that was truly a highlight. He's just so fabulous. And it's who he is. He emanates it. He's just a
Yep.
good soul.
Just a good soul.
So good. You dazzled me with him. Totally.
Yeah, I was doing some good matchmaking there. It was,
Nailed it.
I did.
Fantastic.
He's just so like, he's this perfect mixture of depth and fun. Like he vacillated between like this in-depth like thing, and then shot like 3 shots at you about your chipmunk in the same paragraph.
Yes, he's a thinker.
Yeah.
He's a thinker, but he's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. And I like a person that can be light, but also be deep. He was great. I can't wait for our next conversation with him, whenever that is, because he's truly fantastic. And, but again, a little bit more kudos for you. You always have really interesting people. I don't necessarily agree with them all the time. I know you don't either, whatever it is, but it's always a good conversation. It's always something to ruminate on. You're sitting at a traffic light and it just pops in your head. It's that kind of thing. That's what I think is the hallmark of a memorable chat.
Absolutely. Place of refuge, he said last week. I've been hanging on that for a while. Our movement is a place of refuge. Our Pilates is a place of refuge. I almost did another post again this morning, just workout stuff, right? Like, just to be like, yeah, like there's so much stuff happening in our world, this collective trauma, which is exacerbated by what's happened recently again. But you can still just move. You can just find a place. You need to find space for yourself and hold space for someone else today. Start with your movement, right? Like, so that was powerful. And I mean, besides that being powerful, the thing that you and I are doing is giving permission for people that don't look like us to be able to share safely their thoughts and their reflections on it in a space with helpful words. Because a lot of times people feel like they shy because they're not an authority on this topic to speak on it, but we're giving them an arena to speak on it, and we're benefiting from what they have to share.
There's just a lot of judgment. I agree with you. People don't want to put themselves out there because even if they have a viewpoint that is really important to them, they don't want to deal with the potential bombs that are going to come at them for sharing that viewpoint.
Yep.
And, I think, Joe Pilates isn't here. And the people who, claim to be the standard bearers of his legacy, that are still present or have carried it on from the last standard bearers of his legacy, whatever it is, they put their own flavor onto it, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yep.
They have. And as the work evolves, because we evolve, that's going to happen. And anybody that says it's not going to happen, well, you're wrong. Because that's what life is.
Yep.
We're not all still driving the Model T, correct,
right.
Martin Reed?
Exactly. No. I was going to say, name another place in this world where we've stayed in the 1930s edition of
and
it.
P.S. I don't want to be in the 1930s. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to recognize that other people have really great things to say. My only place, the place where I get caught up, because I really do believe that from the bottom of my heart, the place where I do pump the brakes a little bit is know the work first.
Yes.
Know what this is. Kim Crothers and I talk about this all the time. Know what Pilates is.
Mm-hmm.
Study it, not for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get your certification and be like, woohoo, I'm free to roam about the cabin. Know what the work is. Experience it. Ruminate
know
with
it. Yeah, know it.
Love it.
Yes.
Find what it is and what it means. And then after you've put in, there's no prescribed amount of time, but after you've put in enough time to really know it and understand it, then, add your seasoning, whatever it is. call it what it is once you've added your seasoning, which is, your expression of this work.
Mm-hmm.
But, for people to invalidate people simply because they didn't train with whomever, whatever, who's got time for that?
Right.
Life is way too short. And, what I like about Noam is that he's got such a deep experience with the work.
Yes.
But he's broad and deep.
Yes.
It's not just like classical or bust or, contemporary or bust, whatever it is. It's the work, and then open it up.
Yes.
That's why I like Noam, and anybody else that's open to just exploration.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't look at him and say he doesn't know his work.
Right.
Not for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like someone who's driving. This is the Martin version of that analogy. Someone who's driving a sports car, and I look in, and it's automatic. And then I'm like, but do you know how to drive standard?
I really want to, though. I really, really want to. I want to know how, but I don't have one. I don't even know that you can rent one. I don't know. But because I like to drive fast, and I really like to be an active driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be good for my poor attention span, too.
Yes. Well, maybe I'll drive my car up so you can drive it next time we meet.
I'm still hoping to get to Toronto this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There
but
you
I
go.
don't know if I'm driving your Porsche.
Oh yeah. Alex hasn't even driven it, and I toss the keys to her all the time. Like, I want people to share my joy. I do not covet it in a way like it's no one's allowed to drive it. Ask her. I want people to drive it all the time.
Even people that don't know how to drive. I mean,
I can teach you. I'm confident I can teach you how to drive it.
all right. Well, I'm just saying, if we go up in a fiery explosion of a blown out clutch or whatever it's called,
Yep.
just know that Martin Reed gave me permission to try to drive his car.
I'm confident that won't happen.
Okay. So you're not going to fire me on Wednesdays if something bad happens.
Guaranteed. You heard it here first. Job security
right.
and
Alex,
a new skill set.
Take a note. Take the day down. Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I've only tried it once. My friend said, okay, you want to learn to drive a stick? Okay. So we're in the middle of Maryland. We're in Towson, Maryland, actually. And we're on a hill like this, and he jumps out of the car and says, slide over. And I'm like, It's rush hour, fool. Have you lost your mind?
Yeah, that's cruelty.
I mean, I got us up the hill, and then I got out of the car, and I told him I was walking, and that was it. Because it was terrible. But also, it was an old car. What was it? It was a it was like an old Supra.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we were just talking about you. It was an old Supra or something, and he was a 6'5", super strong dude. His clutch was so tight, like I could barely.
You had to dislocate your hip to get your foot down to the floor. Yeah, I know.
Totally, like it was totally like powerlifting with one leg. So I mean, I'm gonna blame it on that. So when I come out to Canada, that's it. I'm gonna be an expert afterwards.
Yes. Deal.
Because down in Tampa, there's a BMW racing track, whatever. And I think normal people use it. Yeah. I'm just saying. This is Glenn's worst nightmare, by the way.
What?
Me having a performance car to drive fast in.
He just sees the speeding tickets coming in?
Or worse, like taking flight. I don't know. I mean, he's very terrified. Concerned about our insurance. Yeah.
We
live one.
Yeah, I love our digressions. We digress.
We do.
Yes, we just finished discussing over you. So,
You're
yes,
gonna have to watch
definitely
the replay.
watch the replay. And yeah, I made it a podcast, so it's gonna come out this week. So listen to that, absorb that. You said so many good things in there too, Misty. Like, you mean, like, we're talking about place of refuge and the touch and cues and stuff. But when we got into like your relationship with strength and liking your body and like all those things give pause as well. Like those are moments of just reevaluation in terms of where we are at with ourselves. So all that stuff is in the podcast, everybody. I set it to drop at 6 p.m. tonight instead of 4 p.m. So they're just scheduled to drop. So go into the link in my bio, hit it and just click subscribe and it'll come right to your email address. So
Nice.
yeah,
Can I just say one more thing before we sign off?
sure.
Um, even though I am cranky pants, and even though I feel like the outlook is bleak, I do truly believe that if we start working on making ourselves better, then we can make the people around us better, and the concentric circles grow and things get better. And one way that we can be better, getting back to that piece of movement in our relationship with movement, there's something to be said for doing the work that we do with Pilates and strength and all of that, but there's also something to be said for stepping out of that comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
and exploring movement from the eyes of play rather than competency and perfection.
Yes.
And if anybody does anything today that is truly for themselves, I would say, take the time to play with movement. Go to the park. Swing on the swings. Use the monkey bars. I'm actually going to take my Bodhi ropes to the monkey bars to the park today because my A-frame isn't set up yet. And I'm just going to play and, explore it in a way that I wouldn't normally take the time to do.
Yes.
But for me, that's my medicine. And I hope that as movers out there and as teachers in particular, people who tend to be critical of movement, I hope that we all remember to take that time for us to be one with our own movement from a non-judgmental place.
Yes.
Because that's where we start to grow, and that's how we help others grow.
Amen to that.
Thank you, Martin. You brightened my day today.
As always, Wednesdays are my favorite.
Me too. So good. So good.
Just reading through the last of these comments here. So Alex has invited you to Toronto, to Mississauga again. And
I'm coming, Alex. I'm just
yeah.
saying. Just tell me when.
Miss Lindsay Ray, thanks for joining us. My brother Phil's in the house. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thanks for everyone who's been in and out. Andrew, I'll reach out to you. Maybe I'll get you in for a Wednesday. Brendan, will have you on at some point as well. It might be good to have you in on a Wednesday as well. So let's see if we could line that up and have two candidates talking shop here. Might be fun.
Love it. Ooh, wait, I'll be the moderator.
You can be a moderator.
I will ask all kinds of questions. Most of them will be appropriate.
Okay, deal. All right, my friend.
Thank you for this chat. As
Yes.
always, thank you for listening to us just freestyle on a Wednesday morning.
One last thing, as always, what's up on Top Flow for this week?
Oh, yeah. So our guest fell through for this week. It must be a thing. So we'll probably be doing something similar, freestyling the issues. But that said, I am looking to find a last minute pinch hitter. So stay tuned. And it's Friday this week. Okay. But if you didn't get a chance to watch last week, it was great. We talked about cannabis.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Right. Check that out. All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.